Welcome back to Culture Matters. Today we've been talking about how we can use rooftop space in ways that are not only beneficial to the building and the environment, but also the people who live in the building and around it. So let's welcome Alex Shore, who's the Managing Director of Seeder. Originally from the U.S., Alex Shore is the Managing Director of Seeder, a green solutions provider and consultancy. A specialist in solar panels, vertical gardening, aquaponics, and all things sustainable and green, Alex has lived and worked in the U.S., Chile, and China. So Alex, have you ever worked with a rooftop building here in Shanghai? You provide green solutions to your clients, so has this come up before?
Exactly. I mean, basically, it's one of the first questions, actually, that we get from the developers and building owners we work with. So they say, we have this big roof space, especially for existing buildings. They want to know what we can do with it or what they can do with it. And a big thing that we always talk about is, obviously energy savings and cost savings. That's the first thing that comes up.
What is the most kind of popular solution? I mean, is it kind of a very basic green garden, or is it something that's kind of fancier, where you're actually growing carrots and tomatoes?
Mm-hmm. The most natural use is for gardening in the traditional sense, where you can create not only a space that people want to use and to actually enjoy, but also that you can produce healthy and clean plants, using the space that usually would be wasted or otherwise just kind of gone to disrepair. So I think that's the first thing, because it's low cost and it's high value. Then we look at technologies. That's pretty exciting.
This is, a good point, because when I hear green rooftop, does that mean green technology? Does that mean it's LED certified? Or does that mean that there are green things growing on it? I mean, it's just plants. So what are some of the differences that you...
We've kind of labeled everything green, and especially when you're talking agriculture, it gets even more confusing. So I think really the main message that I always kind of talk about is that it's about utilizing it to the best of your ability and to kind of engage the community. So green obviously entails energy savings and efficiency and environmental protection, but also entails this idea of kind of community and engagement and even education. So if you can create these spaces where people can actually go in the middle of cities and feel like they're more in a nature or natural environment, you can have a lot more of these, call them cafes on the roof, if you will, in terms of spaces that people actually go to gather and,
So we've been talking about rooftops in Shanghai and examples from abroad. How would you say Shanghai kind of measures up in terms of green rooftop awareness or amount compared to other cities around the world?
I would say Shanghai is still on the early stage in terms of the public awareness, policy, practice. I think we're still early in the process. Compared with countries like Germany or Japan or, Singapore, I think we're still early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think when you look at the scale and the size, of the development, obviously, I think there is, and the numbers are pretty staggering about how many buildings are not using, green roofs.
Yeah, I would say that the percentage of the green roof in Shanghai probably less than 1%. It's a very small percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is small, but I think the nice thing about it is when the ones who are doing it are getting a lot of exposure for it. So it's rewarded at this point. And
yeah, the potential is big.
Potential is definitely big, yeah.
So the other cities that are most progressive are countries, you'd say, Germany, Europe in general, or?
I would say, Europe in general, but particularly Germany. But because Germany have a great combination of government interference, policy, and versus manufacture, technology, research, universities. I think it's a coalition of the whole society making German really, advance in that kind of a green building and also green roofs.
What about in the U.S.? Any cities that stand out?
I mean, I think in the U.S., obviously, you could look at more of the progressive cities, maybe like San Francisco and places like that have actually mandatory composting. Everyone has to compost their trash.
Mandatory composting?
In San Francisco, you have to segment your garbage. So they're able to, because of that, then I think a lot more people are actually willing to, say, hey, well, why not use this on my roof? Or why not, let's see what we can do. And I think people are really focused on creating lifestyles that they want. And if you're in an urban environment, most people want to have a connection with nature in some way. So that's the easiest way.
Do you notice any differences between clients who are from other countries or Chinese clients or projects you've worked on here in Shanghai compared to other cities in China or abroad?
I would say the Chinese client is quite open-minded. They're very much welcoming new ideas and trying out new things. So I'm pretty positive.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially when you connect it to the traditional elements, but I do see the challenge right now just generally in the construction market, and especially with new construction where people want to build and sell. The faster I build it, the sooner I can sell it.
Yeah.
So that's the mentality that I don't think is so healthy in the industry in China now.
Yeah.
Right. And again, when it comes down to the business model behind the garden, because if there's no model, if it's just, let's say, let's build it and hope it stays alive, of course it's not going to work. But if you build it into the community, into the, everyone has to pay a homeowner fee, or or every office has to pay a maintenance fee. If you build it in there, or if you create a model where they're actually getting income back because of the revenue generated from the garden, there's so many ways you can do it.
It sounds like there's a big disconnect between the people who are promoting rooftop green technology and gardening, and then the people who are actually having to pay for it or live in those spaces. So how can you kind of decrease that gap?
One idea is the bottom-up approach, which I think generally is a good way to change anything. Is if you get the people who are using the building, whether it's residents or office, the owners, the kind of the tenants, whether it's office building or warehouse or factory, if you get them to be the ones who are saying, I want this, then the ownership or the developers or the operators will start listening and saying, hey, they're requesting this. But if they don't really speak up, then no one, there's not going to feel that need or urgency to say, well, they don't even care about this.
Yeah, even developer who's trying to sell the property that they developed, I would say they still want to promote it. I think roof garden is a good way to promote their product. So that's also another added value to it.
Where is most of the push for these green rooftops coming from in Shanghai right now? Is it from the government? Is it from people like your company? Is it from private real estate developers? Or is it from the bottom up?
I don't necessarily feel that the government is doing enough to push on this issue. I think the policies, some of the policies there, but it's definitely not enough. I think it's more driven by the market.
I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of things available, and the government put a lot of money towards these kind of initiatives, but it's hard. The next step is hard. A lot of information available about how I get these incentives or financing, or, will the government give me some kind of tax break for having a green roof, or, again, so it's just about creating more awareness, and I think more awareness will achieve that bottom up, and then, again, then the top down is the opposite side, when the government's saying, we need to have this, we need to make these happen, here are the steps, and we're gonna help fund them. Yeah.
Well, thanks for your tips and your inspiring ideas. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rooftops for the rest of the summer. Check out our Weixing and Weibo account, and we'll see you next week.